Alaskans, thank you so much for joining us at our inaugural Take 5 Live with Congressman Don Young. The voice you're hearing is Zach Brown, his communications director, and I will be moderating and giving the questions to the congressman. So before we begin, I will hand it over to the congressman to say some opening remarks to Alaskans.
Thank you, Zach. This is new. This is the first one, Take 5 Live. We plan on doing these. I guess we're going to do them every week. It's a chance for Alaskans to send us in live questions, and I will try to answer them best of my ability. We'll keep working on this and try to improve it. Like the first flight, sometimes it's like a fledgling out of a nest. We may land kind of hard, but we'll get there. So help us out. So thank you. And Zach, what's the first question?
All right, so the first question comes from Naomi from Valdez. She asks, with oil prices going up and our pipeline only flowing around 25% of capacity, what can be done to open the floodgates again to get our oil flowing? Senator Manchin has already called for a boycott of Russian oil. Let's use ours.
Can't agree with you more. I think it's a great idea. We have some problems. As you know, this administration wants to shut down ANWR, which is a large surplus of oil or body of oil. We have other prospects in Alaska, but he says no more oil drilling. So he has to change his position to the executive branch and say we're going to drill, and we should. The idea that we're importing about, I think, last time I heard about 12 million barrels of oil a month from from Russia, and I want to say Washington D.C. because that's where I am, but that's not right. And you see in the Ukraine, that's the one leverage that's being used now by Putin, is their supply of energy to the NATO states. And I'll tell you, when you're cold and hungry, you'll do most anything. So this is wrong position. We should be producing our oil in Alaska and across the nation as a whole. There's tremendous amount of carbon. Now, some people say, well, we're protecting the planet. Well, that could be, but I would suggest respectfully, you're doing harm to the planet, opening the doors for the dictators. And I'm saying that's wrong. I've been working 50 years on these issues, got the pipeline built, and that's something people forget. That was the first bill I introduced and got passed in the legislation in 1973. And it's given us many barrels of oil and can give us more. There's no doubt about that. And may I go to those that say the climate's being affected by oil? That could be. I don't buy that, but they could be. But even then, the amount of oil is used for other things than propulsion. I think about 75% of the barrels used for other things, medicines, plastics, rugs, chairs, you name it, and clothing. And people say, oh, you can't drill anymore. Well, they're being very, very short-sighted. So, Nami, you're right. We can use our own oil. This administration is opposed to it, and this is not being a DNR. They're opposed to fossil fuel. And I think they're dead wrong, and I hope you agree with me because we should be using our own. Now, as far as putting a boycott on Russian oil, like Mr. Manchin suggested, I think it's a great idea, but we better have some to replace it. So that means developing some of our oil quickly. We can do it by fracking in certain areas, but we need to be having our own oil for the United States of America, not Russia.
The second question comes from Missy Skeeter from Fairbanks. She says, former Governor Frank Murkowski had an excellent suggestion recently in an op-ed in the Newsminer. Why not extend the Alaska Railroad for industrial hauling of ore from the proposed Kinross mine?
Well, Missy, thank you. Now I'm going to say, there's another issue I worked on and came close to it. I got the bridge built across the Tanana River, by the way. You may not know that. We're supposed to go into that mineralized field outside of a delta by using rail and then on down through Delta into Canada, extending that railroad. It will work. We need to take and develop resources to pay for it, though. And again, under the Biden administration, they don't want to develop resources, but you have to have that to pay for it. It's a great idea. Rail is one of the better ways to do it. It's not new, by the way. There used to be a railroad in Nome. People forget that, Nome to Teller. So I'm excited about your concept. Governor Murkowski and I have talked about it. We have to be involved because it's a state-owned railroad and get the federal government involved in being able to deliver resources to the lower 48 from Alaska. So it's a great idea. I'm working on it. It's going to take a little time.
Sir Terry Williams from Skagway asked, do you think the Russians may step up their encroachments into Alaska airspace if they think our response to their invasion in Ukraine is too weak?
They're already doing that, by the way. They've been doing it, but that's been going on for a long time. I don't think it's because they think we're weak. I just think they're going to do it anyway. We have a challenge in Alaska because that's one reason we got our missile site, because we're close to Russia and we're close to North Korea and we're close to China. So the Russians, though, I believe there's a bright side of this whole Ukrainian thing. Somebody, what are you talking about? The bright side is Russia has found out they're not the might they think they are as far as conventional warfare. They're getting the bejesus kicked out of them in the Ukraine by, very frankly, civilians. I'm hoping that we can hold out for another week that don't make a decision that this wasn't a good idea. I may be wrong, but I think they found out that the world sentiment, and even in their own country, and they have been actually stopped by guerrilla warfare, and that makes me very excited. So they will, and we have the impression of being weak because of Afghanistan, and the pullout was a debacle. So, you know, we'll see what happens and goes along. But we have to keep our military strong and our modern technology improved upon. I want to have our troops have the best equipment available. And that goes back to science and all kinds of different things. I expect the next wars will be fought, not this one, but the next wars will be fought by satellites, drones, all kinds of air vehicles, all kinds of different things other than big tanks and that's it. Now, Putin decided to use the tanks and ground forces in the Ukraine, and he's frankly getting beat. I'm happy for that. Maybe it's taught everybody a lesson.
Okay, our next question comes from Belle Merritt in Palmer. She says, thank you for your action on the Boats Act. Can more be done to sanction Russian oligarchs? Can they and their families be expelled from our country? Can other assets be seized?
Well, you know, I'm going one step at a time. My Boats Act, for those who don't know, I put it in a bill. I've got 10 sponsors. I'll probably have 100 before the week's out. To be able to have the authority to seize yachts. By the way, some of those yachts are $200 million yachts. The rich people in Russia. And actually industrial vessels, cargo vessels, if they're in our waters. One that I'm really after is an icebreaker, so we can get an icebreaker quicker. They got a lot of icebreakers. We only have 3 old ones, so we're trying to build 2 new ones. So we're after that. As far as other punishment, you know, this is a first step forward. Can there be other ways? Maybe. Mainly because the freezing of the bank accounts is working well. We're going to continue to do that if possible. We have to make sure that the world stays with us. And I believe they will if they see that we're serious about what actions we are taking are working. My Boats Act will work. I think I had them all worried. In fact, we got actually a notice the other day that Putin moved his vessel, and I'd love to take his vessel. That'd be fun. But you know, just the idea, and we don't really make any money off the vessels. We sell them if someone can buy them, and then we turn around and give the money to the Ukrainian refugees, send it back to Ukraine. So you've got a good idea as far as other things. We're doing some pretty good things, and I call it financial interruptions.
And question number 5, the final question of Take 5 Live, comes from Ryan Kennedy in Anchorage. He says Russia might ban travel over its airspace. This might make the Anchorage airport reprise its role as a gas station to the world, as was the case in the Cold War. What is the federal government doing to prepare for this possibility?
Nothing. That's right up front with you. The federal government doesn't see this. I think you're right if you go back to history. I believe the state should be involved more in this. We have our own fuel. We have a percentage of. We should tell people we can refuel in our airport. We got all the facilities there to do so. I believe it can happen. We are the crossroads. I had a suggestion the other day that the governor hasn't gone very far, but a suggestion is that he take an International Guard airplane and fly it to Poland to pick up the Ukrainian refugees, and it's about 7 hours to Poland in one of our planes. We're right close to the area we're talking about, and bring them back to Alaska and let them work on our fish plants and get some money, and when this episode is over, maybe go back. I think it's a great humanitarian effort, and I believe it showed the world we're serious about it, because what he has done is wrong. It is, caused a tremendous refugee problem, and it's hurt I call the backbone of Ukraine. Thank God some of them are still staying and are willing to fight for their country and going to be successful. But Anchorage can be the crossroads of the world because our proximity to fuel and the closest to the rest of the world. So we look forward to it if we're able to do that. Russia was closed down the airspace. That's fine with me. I don't plan on flying over Russia. But the fact is, I do believe we have the upper hand in this arena. They still fly the Bears into our neighborhood. That's a big old 4-engine airplane. That was going on way back in the Cold War. They're still using that aircraft. They still fly over us. Gives us great training, but I don't think they're serious about it right now. We'll see what happens later. That's why we have our F-35s and F-22s and F-16s and you name it. We got a tremendous Air Force in Alaska. Good people, good troops, and well trained. So we want to continue that. And by the way, thanks for the question and thanks for the comments. For the rest of you, that's my 5th question. And I do apologize. We're voting right now and trying to get things done here. We finished last night watching the State of the Union address. Kept us up late. We're here now. My voice is a little harsh, but God bless Alaska and God bless America.